Hi everyone. So today we are back on the SEO leadership webinar, and today we have such an exciting guest. I know I say this every Friday, but I am so eager for our guest today. Today we have on the global director of SEO at Fujisan Marketing, Sean. He has gathered 20 years in the SEO and website management industries. He's had companies such as ROI DNA, New Relic, GoDaddy, Redfin, and Microsoft. Sean has such incredible experience. He has worked in industries such as the B2C, B2B, SaaS, and e-commerce industry. So, Sean, thank you so much for coming on. How are you keeping?
Oh, good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Sean, we like to kick things off by sort of touching on an initial conversation topic, which is how you got into the SEO industry. And I know 20 years is a lot to cover in a few short minutes and highlights, but if you could tell us how you got into SEO and how you got to where you are now, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll try and give you a short summary, but essentially when I first started, I was a web developer. I was very much interested in the blend of creativity, content marketing, and the technical side. But then from there, it just evolved when Google came about. It just seemed like a natural fit that my progression always flowed between design, user experience, the technical, and the content side. And I've been doing SEO ever since, and I love that I'm able to work with a wide variety of companies. So I started off there, and then, like you mentioned, some of the companies I worked for, I've done in-house as well as agency side with Long Duty, Pointed, where I won an award for the work we did for PIMCO, which is a Seattle, Oregon insurance company. So yeah, I love it. I love talking about SEO, and I could spend all day. So
Awesome. I would love to kick it off by actually asking you a quick question in regards to your experience with B2C and B2B SaaS and e-commerce. It's quite a unique aspect that we have like someone on our webinar that has all varied experiences. And I'd love to know if you have any advice to SEOs that are looking to enter any of those industries. What would they particularly be interested in each sort of industry, and what would sort of help them understand and navigate which sort of niche or industry to go into first, or
yeah,
field
it's a
rather? Yeah.
great question. The There's the foundation of SEO, which always comes down to the technical or the platform that the website is running on. So having that in your back pocket of being able to understand the technical aspects, I think is key, and that translates to all of those, whether it's B2B, B2C, etc. But understanding that there are nuances between e-commerce and service sites, if you will, that provide software or provide consulting services, that sort of thing. And it comes back down to the content, understanding the user intent behind the queries. So if your e-commerce site, you're going to want to ensure that the products being offered are providing content on the page that align with the queries. And that ties through all of them. So in my view, once you get that foundation, you can apply that to different types of markets and industries.
Awesome. And in terms of agency versus in-house, we
Hmm.
love to also ask this question to our guests as well, and knowing that you have also had experience in both, what would be your preferred sort of advice to an SEO that's starting out? Would it be preferred to start with agency and then move in-house, or vice versa, or does that depend on the person?
I think it depends on what your passion is. If you go into an agency, it's fast paced. There's a wide variety of companies that you'd be working with, different personalities. I started off in house, and I think that gave me the space to grow and learn and do my practice around SEO and user experience. But agency side also has its benefits where it's you grow because you are working with some of those varied companies in the B2B or B2C market. So it's honestly up to the individual, but you just have to kind of go into knowing that there's going to be challenges in both personalities, trying to get through content creation with the marketers, creators of content, the engineering team. That will never change between in-house and agency. There's always nuances with it. So agency side is, in my view, has always been a little bit more fast-paced, and it's keeping all the balls up in the air, juggling different clients and different companies. In-house, a little bit easier because you're dealing with people internally, so you have more time to develop those relationships to try and advocate for the changes and modifications that you want for the website.
Brilliant. And Sean, going back, you mentioned at the start, before sort of getting fully into SEO, you came from like sort of the web development background. How difficult was it for you to, when you sort of grew into the SEO world, that no longer, obviously technical SEO is like the foundation, but how quick or how easy was it to pick up the sort of the content side of things, or even like the offsite work?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started out, I was doing all of that. So it was pretty natural for me to change lanes, if you will, into those. I honestly think it's really important to have that technical background, especially on the SEO side. So, but you also have to be a bit of a marketer, providing recommendations of how to structure the content on the page, providing outlines for the content, whether it's PLPs or PDPs or blog articles. That knowledge of the structure of the page itself, which is the technical side, and then understanding how to write content for visitors to the site.
Okay, brilliant. And we have like a lot of like sort of junior SEOs, like sort of execs, ask us if it's the right idea to, there may be more of a general role at the minute in terms of SEO, and they're looking at opportunities to step up, but most of those opportunities might be sort of pigeonholed into like a specialist route where it's, you know, a more sort of technical focus or more sort of on-page focus. Is there any advice that you would give to them? Is that a good idea to do initially and then circle back to a more generous role a couple of years down the line, or would you opt for staying generalist and then really honing down your skills maybe later on in your career?
Yeah, I think it depends on the size of the team in that case. So if you have the opportunity to have an SEO specialist that's focused on the technical, you have an SEO specialist that's focused on the content, and they're communicating with the team, that's great. I think the other thing that I've learned throughout the years is to provide essentially open office hours, training, that kind of thing, so that there is that cross training that helps elevate them into that next role and understand how they play a part with each other.
Awesome. I wanted to move into sort of hiring advice for SEOs that are looking for roles in 2025. And with 20 years plus experience within the industry, what have you seen that are some of the constant sort of skill sets, especially with soft skill sets, that SEO should be mastering, as well as some of the more trending ones within 2024 and 2025 that you may look for if you were to hire someone on your team?
Yeah, and it kind of depends on the years of experience and the role of what I'd be looking for, but I would want someone that does understand the technical, understands the marketing side, writing content. The thing I would recommend is like for soft skills, communication is so important internally, whether it's in-house or agency side. It's being able to tell that story of why these things are important, and what the benefit is. Like, if tell me the reason. That's the question that we always get in the SEO world, is why? Like, is this actually going to do anything? And being able to show the metrics behind it, which are typically estimated and always are caveated with, well, it kind of depends. But it's one of those things of being able to communicate and understanding the audience who you're talking to, whether it's C-suite or a marketer or a developer, is being able to get across the point of the why it's important, what the benefit's going to be, and what the level of effort might be to implement.
Love it. And on top of that, obviously you've sort of recently joined at the minute. How was that sort of onboarding experience, and how crucial is that, especially some of your position, to get that right going forward for your next sort of potential hires down the line?
Yeah, I think the onboarding experience is crucial. For example, when I first started at Microsoft, there was no onboarding. It's just, here you go. Trial by fire. But I've worked with other agencies, and most recently, obviously, with Fujisan, there was a great onboarding process. There was a schedule put out that showed me every day who I'd be talking to, what I'd be learning about the business, and what everybody does. I think that's really important. Is there again, going back to the communication, it's being able to have that open door policy and communicating with the team of what you do, what your experience is. So that's, I think, the biggest foundation when starting any new company.
Excellent. And on that, with Microsoft, obviously, what was it like after leaving that? Because Microsoft, obviously, massive company with, I'm assuming, a huge amount of resources. What was it like going from that to probably having a lot of backing in terms when it comes to SEO to maybe moving to a company where it's a lot sort of more limited resources and you might have to think a bit more outside of the box? What was that sort of culture change like?
And that's an interesting question, because when working for large companies, which not even just Microsoft, but Attachmate, they were large companies, they were global. And even though they had vast resources, there was a cadence to submitting requests that could take longer than, for example, working with multiple clients. They have their resources, they have agencies that they work with for development, content writing. So I would actually say it went from 20 miles an hour at Microsoft to about 60 when I went agency side. So it's a different tenor, basically, when working in-house at times. It can be beneficial because there are the resources, but sometimes it moves a little bit slower because it is so massive.
Yeah, brilliant. Interesting.
And in that, not particularly the Microsoft transition, but with transitions in your companies being in leadership roles, do you have any tips to SEOs that may be in the same position where they're moving to another company and they're looking for advice on how to sort of manage the cultural shift as well as sort of getting buy-in from the team?
Get to know the people you're working with, the stakeholders, your point of contacts. I think emotional intelligence is highly needed when shifting roles, shifting companies, and just understanding how people communicate. So instead of coming in and just saying, this is the way it's going to be, this is what needs to be done, it's there again, understanding what's important to them, how they learn, and helping educate them as to the importance of what you're doing for the work on the site and content marketing.
Awesome.
Excellent. Sorry, Sean. I know obviously from GoDaddy, it was like a senior SEO manager, and then your next role was up to like a global head of SEO. Obviously, I know GoDaddy is a global company itself, but was there a huge change going from maybe working within the US to managing like a global team now? And how was that transition? And was there anything that you sort of didn't realize initially that cropped up?
Well, the time difference is always a bit of a challenge, but it's mostly understanding there again how people work. Quite honestly, the transition and titles are titles. I mean, I could call myself VP of SEO or whatever. It's still the same work. It's providing the strategy, working with the team members, whether they're in a different country or local or within the US. It's helping them with the strategy and getting feedback from them and buy-in. If you just come to them directly and say, this is how it needs to be, I think it's important to ask other people too, what's your opinion? What do you think of this? Doesn't mean I'm going to run with it, but I think it helps build that relationship and communication pipeline.
Okay, excellent.
Awesome. Sean, I wanted to touch on, we actually spoke about it quite a lot last week, and it's been quite a heated sort of conversation at the moment. But how have you sort of experienced the transformation of AI. I know, like, having that, going back to that 20 years of experience and seeing truly the development of AI and the evolution that has been happening over the past few years, especially within the SEO space. What are your takes on AI within the SEO space, and do you have any predictions for this year, if I can ask that?
Well, the first thing is don't freak out. Yeah, I've had this question so many times over the past several weeks too. Is in my view, AI is the next evolution of SEO. People are saying, well, with AI, SEO is dead. It's not. AI technically with Google has been around since about 2015-ish, if I remember correctly. It's just evolved. And now there's all the different players like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, etc., where it's the fundamentals of SEO haven't changed. They just keep evolving. We need to be more strategic around what we're doing. And one of the things that's a soapbox of mine is unique content, right? So if you're a sports store or a sports website, you're not going to be selling cars or talking about cars just to drive organic traffic and clicks. So I think the thing people need to keep in mind is AI is extremely useful for accelerating your research. I mean, we're seeing that even with SEMrush and Ahrefs, where there's the integration of AI into it for research. So it's very beneficial when it comes to identifying schema markup, content creation, keywords, semantically related topics to those keywords. So what used to take me hours to do research manually now takes me a matter of minutes, kind of thing, and then I can hone that in. And the thing to keep in mind with AI is it still needs a human touch to it. So even if you say, here's my topic, create a blog outline, it's not going to be right 100% of the time. It's not even going to be right 80% of the time. So AI is basically a tool for SEO. And then the other thing to keep in mind is where we're shifting to is more around natural language queries, voice search, that kind of thing. So it's no longer best pizza recipe. It's now you're going to start seeing longer tail types of keywords or queries where people are saying, what's the best pizza dough? Or what's the best mix of ingredients, that kind of thing. So if you don't have that content within your field, then you're going to lose out, because what's happening is the aggregation of AI modeling is looking for that type of information to then put that together as a response. Hopefully that helped.
Awesome. And how are you, if you are, we've just been asking around with our guests about this. Have you been training your teams with AI over the past few years, and how has that, what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of my role is to give guidance as to the best practices and how to use it. Primarily, I lean on ChatGPT, but oftentimes I'll mix it up and look at and compare between SEMrush responses, Gemini, Copilot. And one of the things I've been doing is developing those prompts within ChatGPT and providing them a resource and library of those prompts. So it gives more quality information as a starting point that then they can go off and look at the client site, the competitors for the client, and see where that matches up.
Awesome. And sorry, one last question on this topic before we move on. We had a guest on recently who spoke about how, which was quite an interesting take on things. They were constantly providing reports to their clients and making sure that they were the first to get on that before, as updates were happening, to make sure that they were staying as an authoritative figure to their clients or prospective clients. And I thought it was quite an interesting take, especially with all of the developments on AI. Which sort of leads me to my next question is, how do you sort of manage that communication to potential clients or higher ups, or your team in general, on the developments of AI, and sort of just maintaining an authoritative figure versus your competitors?
Yeah. One of the things I do is to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. I use a site called Feedly, feedly.com, where I can quickly go through and see some of the articles from Moz, SEMrush, Search Engine Journal, Rusty Brick, so on and so on. And it gives me context as to some of the patterns of what's developing, what Google's working on, what ChatGPT's working on, that sort of thing. So to the question of how to communicate to clients, typically what I do is if there's any huge shift, I like to send out an email, but typically on monthly calls, monthly reporting calls, give them a recap of what we're seeing within the marketplace. And then internally, it's a little bit easier because they're all right there. So it's just like, hey, check this out.
Cool. Awesome.
And
Nice.
Sean, just to go back, I know you said about there's probably at the minute and probably for the next couple of years, there's a lot more focus on voice search queries. How much as well? I think blogs seem to be becoming more of a thing of the past, and I think videos are starting to maybe overtake that at the minute. How much sort of focus are you and your team putting on videos? And again, with potential clients, how do you get buy-ins for them to start creating these videos and put them on their website?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some clients are really good at creating videos. And the thing around videos is there needs to be content around it, whether it's the transcription of the video or a description of the video. That AI is not going to understand what that video is. Right now, they don't even read JavaScript, so the content portion is huge. And it's great to have embedded videos because then it's promotion, especially if they're a few minutes long or less. It helps with the time on site, which is a metric that Google, whether they want to admit it or not, they use to keep people on site, but then hopefully drive people further into the site. So voice search, in my view, especially around, you touched on blog articles, that's huge. Like, it's great to have even embedded videos on blog articles, but then being able to answer the question that aligns with the user intent is going to help drive some of that traffic there. So I don't see blog articles going away. I actually see them as being even more important because typically blog articles are top of funnel types of queries anyway. And then being able to lead people to other resources, or if you are an e-commerce site, lead them to the proper landing pages for the products.
So I take it in terms of, it probably depends slightly on the client as well, but those videos, are they focused more on sort of informational or more sort of like transactional sales type of videos?
Yeah, it depends. I said that earlier. It's a mix. There again, whatever type of video you're creating, look at where you're at within the funnel. So if it's top of funnel, it's more informational. Blog article, great place to do a quick 20, 30-second type of video explaining what the context is about that article. If it's transactional, you can have that on a landing page as well to explain why this product is the best. So you really have to, in all areas of the funnel, whether you're doing video or page optimizations, understanding where that content fits in.
Love it.
Awesome. At your old role at New Relic, you were responsible for the content creation and marketing for multi-language sites, which is something that I noted down, which I love to ask about because it is such a sort of tricky topic to tackle for SEOs. And on previous webinars, we have had SEOs that maybe like came from Brazil, but then moved overseas and has that sort of that dynamic to be able to work between two different languages and two different cultures. How was that sort of process for you, and how did you manage to tackle doing a multi-language marketing for multi-language sites?
Yeah, several companies I worked at, Attachmate, Microsoft, etc. It was incredibly important to have a point of contact internationally, because it's one thing to put a phrase or whatever into Google Translate, it's not always going to be accurate. Plus, it's not going to have the local voice to it. So it's important to have someone that either is in-house or you have someone that is able to translate into the local language and target that, or do the translation and target the keywords that you're trying to go after. Because there are going to be different nuances in the keywords in various countries, whether it's in China, France, etc., is looking at how people are searching. And I think it's incredibly important to even use translation services, whether it's Google Translate, to then put that into other tools like SEMrush, et cetera, to do some keyword research on that and filter by the country. So it's there again, it goes back to relationship building and having people that you can lean on for questions of, is this the right path? Is this the right keyword for your country, your area?
Awesome. I wonder if that's something AI hasn't yet touched.
I'm sure it will at some point.
I wanted to also touch on this particular topic because we recently made an announcement that we are partnering with paid media jobs. And I know that you've been working well with the paid search teams in your previous roles. So I'd love to ask you, how did you manage the relationship between SEO and paid search? And do you have any tips to SEOs that are looking to break out of the silos that they're in?
Yeah, it's huge to partner with the paid search team, especially I'll use Google Ads. You're able to get even clearer insights. So based on going back to just a 2 to 5 keyword string, now you're able to actually, or you've been able to see for quite some time, what actually trigger the ad based on the keyword. So it provides context for SEO, but then also for paid search. We're able to help them with what we're seeing organically. So it's really a partnership again, and understanding paid search really helps out on the organic side and vice versa.
Awesome. Just to end it off, Sean, you have an impressive list of leadership roles that you've worked in with the previous companies, as we've mentioned earlier. And I wanted to ask, as it is sort of a hot topic right now, on how we can get more SEOs to step into those leadership positions earlier on in their careers. A lot of our SEOs that we're bringing on the webinar are pushing personal branding, leadership training, mentoring, communication, all of these things. And I'd love to sort of pick your brain and ask you about that. And for any junior SEOs that are listening, what can they sort of do right now to better protect themselves for the future and stepping into any leadership positions?
I think the biggest thing is asking questions, first off, within the team, within the company. And from a personal branding perspective, and I'm guilty of not doing this as much as I used to, but write articles for other websites. I did a bunch for Content Marketing Institute and some others. And it's huge because then you're out there, people get to know you, know your skills, and always learn. Always be out there looking for training, looking for articles, like I mentioned with Search Engine Journal, etc. And then essentially being and showing that you're the leader in that space. That's the biggest thing, is don't ever doubt yourself. It's like you're always growing, and to stand out with a very, very tough field right now, you have to do that. You have to keep growing and be willing to take some risks and fail and learn from them.
Did you ever have a moment in your career that you had any sort of imposter syndrome or anything like that? And how did you end up overcoming that?
I still do. I mean, I think it's actually healthy to doubt yourself sometimes. People always say, don't doubt yourself. But quite honestly, if you're not asking yourself, can I do this better? Am I understanding everything? And that's where asking questions, communicating with the community of local SEOs, going to conferences like MozCon, that kind of thing. It helps keep it fresh and not have blinders on.
Awesome. I love that. That's a very unique answer. Yeah, Sean, thank you so much for joining. That hits our 30-minute mark, and we got a lot of amazing answers from that. Are you speaking anytime soon or anything exciting coming up?
I have a podcast I'm doing this afternoon, and then I'm applying to a couple conferences that I hope to get accepted to, but they're so tough sometimes. So.
No, yeah, no, they definitely are. But yeah, crossing fingers for you. And if anyone's listening, head over to Sean's page and give him a follow. And he can check out all of the podcasts as well. His link will be in all of our captions wherever we put this. But yeah, Sean, thank you so much for coming on early on a Friday morning for you. And we hope to chat again soon.
Thank you.